Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Three Count Wrestling podcast. I am the original Hellraiser, Itchy Barn AJ Bomber, and as always, I'm joined by
The Sheriff of Wrestling.
my tag team partner, the Sheriff of Wrestling. How you doing?
Yeah, all good.
All good?
Enjoying. Well, just coming to the end of my first week off. So, and then I've got another week off as well. So, all good this end. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I've enjoyed my time off. Unfortunately, I am back in work tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Yes, thank you very much for the sly snigger there. Yeah, as long as you're good, I'm all good. We're here today recording another episode. It may be grey outside, but inside it's always sunny.
Of course. When we're talking about wrestling, actually, I'll rephrase that. But sometimes when you talk about wrestling, it's good. Not
Yeah,
everything's good.
yeah, sometimes.
I was going to say it's always sunny when you talk about wrestling, but that might not always be the case.
Not always the case, no, but there is some ups, a lot of downs, but sometimes there are some ups. So anyway, moving forward, so I just want to let the people who are going to listen to this know. Unfortunately, we never got around to doing the WCW Halloween Havoc 97 review, even though we said on the last episode we would. We never got around to doing it, and now the moment has passed. That ship has sailed. It's gone, hit an iceberg, and fucking sank down to the bottom of the ocean. So we had a little bit of a discussion, and we agreed that we're going to get a structure in place. So we're not just going to throw out random bits every now and again, but we're going to try and be that little bit more professional. So we've gone from 10% professionalism, now we're going to around about 15. One day we might make it to 100, but we're going to about 15% professionalism there. So yeah, we've got a structure in place, so we know what we're doing moving forward. And as you mentioned, and we've talked about it, going back and looking at the early years of the WWF, especially one show in particular that's been around since '93. Do you want to let the people know what that is?
That would be Monday Night Raw.
Yes, Monday Night Raw. Now, I've heard a lot of people's take on the Monday Night Wars, and primarily people start from '95 because obviously that's when Nitro started in September and then went up against Raw. So most people's take is it's from '95 going forwards. Obviously, we thought we'd be a little bit more clever and a little bit more savvy, and that would actually go back to the very, very beginning of Monday Night Raw, and then hopefully leading up to Nitro. Has the network got Saturday night on the WCW Saturday night?
It's not on the network, and what's on the network isn't all of it. It's you got bits here, bits there, and I did check on YouTube actually for Saturday night, and it basically, again, you don't get all of them.
Well, that's a bit of a shame because it would have been nice while we're doing a Raw review of '93. We could have done a review of WCW programming in '93, but alas, we won't be able to do that by the sounds of it because of missing footage or missing episodes or not full complete episodes. So we'll just stick to Raw. But hey, people like Raw. Raw's been around since '93 and it's still going strong. It might have lost an hour, but people still enjoy it.
Well, it gained an hour, then another hour. Now lost the 1 hour, but we'll go
Yeah,
back to 3 hours.
yeah, and I'm going to enjoy that. You know, I realised we've talked about this before about how much wrestling there is to be consumed today in 2024.
A lot.
And there's a lot. And people would say, oh, well, you know, you had a lot back in the day as well during the territories. Well, yeah, but a lot of that was on local TV stations. It wasn't on syndication or cable. So you only got it in that one region. Where if you lived up north and you had WWF, or you lived down south and you had JCP or Georgia Championship Wrestling, or, you know, Texas, you had World Class Championship Wrestling, or in the Midwest, you had AWA. That was just local to your area. And it wasn't until the advent of McMahon introducing closed circuit and then syndication cable and actually taking over the rest of the markets that those territories it was in, wrestling is now a lot more accessible.
Do you know how he took over the like took over the other promotions?
Yeah, it was a lot of inside dodge dealings and going behind their backs and going to the local TV stations and saying, well, you put my wrestling on, and I would assume a lot of backhanders.
Well, obviously, poaching the wrestlers
Well,
was the one
yeah,
I was looking at
yeah,
mainly. That's what he did. Obviously, Hulk Hogan never started off with the WWE, as we were just mentioning. But yeah, I watched something not long ago, and Vince's dad didn't want him in the wrestling business, period, anyway. But then sold him like part of it. But he also told Vince that they keep it the way it is, like as in everyone has their own territory. Obviously, Vince didn't listen.
yeah. I don't know if you've seen the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. It's not as bad as what people make out to be. Yes, you'd probably want to see a little bit more or hear a little bit more of what's physically going on with Vince McMahon. But it was a nice little insight. And obviously, as you just mentioned there, yes, his dad did give him a venue to look after, which I think promoted not just wrestling but other things on top, and he managed to generate money.
Mm.
Which then he bought the company from his dad on the promise that he would pay his dad if he missed the payment, and then obviously then the company would go to I think it might have been Gorilla Monsoon,
Mm-hmm.
or it would have been he would have been next to able to purchase the company or the shareholders at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked out for him
Well,
eventually.
trust me, if Vince, for all the flaws he has and all the wrong he's done, if he didn't do what he did, we wouldn't have wrestling today, as we know it. If we, we've there's lots of companies around the world, but you've got like the WWE, you've got AEW, you've got New Japan, you've got TNA, and all the independent ones as well. But without Vince doing what he did, would we have the companies we have today?
I think personally we would still have WWE. Wherever it would be a juggernaut that it is now, currently, is, hindsight's 2020. You don't know if it would be, but it'd still be a big dominant force in wrestling. But I think you would still see companies like maybe WCW,
See, that's
probably
the thing I was going to
don't know
say.
about ECW.
If WWE hadn't started poaching the talent when they did, and then did the WrestleManias and eventually like the Survivor Series and Royal Rumbles, and all them came into play. Without personally, I think if that didn't happen, then I don't think Ted Turner would have really got into the wrestling business. And even if he did, I don't think WCW would have been what it was. On the basis that if Vince McMahon hadn't stolen everybody at that point, and made Hulk Hogan a big star who was off making movies at the time, would WCW have been what it was? Would WWE have changed and had the Attitude Era, which a lot of people talk about? Because they had comedic characters, they were all comedy characters, like comic book characters, shall I say? And they literally, they only changed that because WCW was bringing in all these big names. And then WWE decided to go the younger route of talent and start the Attitude Era.
Well,
But would
yeah,
that have happened if they didn't steal the other territories? I mean,
I
it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. Nobody knows because
yeah.
you ain't got a time machine to go back and do it. But personally, my thoughts, I don't think wrestling would be what it is today if that didn't happen.
Yeah, it's hard to say. You might still see talent going to other companies because obviously that's always a thing, regardless. if WWE just stayed as a regional thing, or
Mm.
the global juggernaut is now. You still see wrestlers fluttering back and forth. I would have thought the NWA would have been as strong as it was, if not stronger, because obviously they still had that threshold over, like Jim Crockett Promotions. They also worked with Georgia Championship Wrestling. At one point, they worked with Florida Championship Wrestling. I think if Vince McMahon didn't buy the company from his dad and it was left to the shareholders and they kept it as it was, I
Yeah.
think today, personally, you would have the WWE. I
Mm.
think you could have Jim Crockett Promotions, which could have or may have turned into WCW if Ted
Oh,
Turner still
mm.
wanted to buy the company. But I think the biggest company out of all of them would have been the AWA.
Mm.
Because at the time, AWA was very, very popular, especially in the, it started in, believe the 60s, late 60s.
Mm.
For the 70s and 80s was a big boom period for the AWA. And if Hogan never left, then Hogan would have been, the biggest star of the AWA. But it's all ifs and buts. And obviously, like you said, there is no time machine. We can't go back and change what's happened.
I mean, trust me, if there was time machines, everyone would have covered everything by now.
Oh yeah, everyone would have gone back and changed some sort of event in time. And just imagine what we'd be living like now. We'd probably have like 3 heads and fucking 6 sets of balls on our chin, or something stupid like that.
Here you go.
Um,
Just a quick one before we start the thingy on Raw. If
yeah.
you could go back to any wrestling event at any time period, doesn't matter, which event would you go back to actually be in the crowd?
I think there's. I can't narrow it down to a single event. If I had to say 3 or 4 events, I think I would. I would definitely go back and witness Bruno. Superstar Billy Graham defeating Bruno Sammartino for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship. I think I would go back and then be in the crowd for when Hogan defeated Sheiky Baby in '84
Mm-hmm.
for the title. And then I think I would go maybe. I might pick a WCW one here. And I think I would go and possibly watch. I would probably say the Halloween '97. Just so
Halloween
I could
Havoc.
actually, yeah, just so I could actually be in the crowd and actually physically see Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio,
Oh,
the Macho Man DDP match,
yep.
and even the Hogan and Piper stuff.
No, now you're ruining it.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. And then the fourth one, I would probably say King of the Ring '98, Hell in a Cell match between Mankind and Taker.
Yeah, good pick. See, I'm glad that we did the AEW All-Ins
Yeah,
as the pay-per-views. Obviously, I've been to a Raw taping, I've been to a TNA taping, like live of it, like in London or Liverpool. But I think, like I said, I'm like you. There's loads of pay-per-views that I'd probably want to see. And when we're watching them on TV, would love to be there. I mean, Halloween Havoc, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, would have loved to see in that match live. And as the person who did watch Halloween Havoc, that match, like you can tell, both Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero were going to be massive superstars. Not that WCW saw it until it was too late, but yeah, that match and the DDP match, man, even though they were both older, they put on a banger of a match. Like, They were the matches. Those two matches. If you don't watch anything else on Halloween Havoc, just watch those two matches because they're the best two of the night easily. And I would love to have been there to see it. I think the rest of the matches are mediocre. The first match is okay,
Mm.
but the rest of them, it's predictable what's going to happen. Not to say Hogan, Roddy Piper is predictable because it wasn't, but the other ones were. You could tell who was going to win. But that Hogan Piper match, in my opinion, it was silly the way they did it. There was good spots, obviously. That's throughout all wrestling, but yeah, I think the main event. If they put Macho Man as the main event, it probably would have been a better show.
Well, again, hindsight is 2020, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I
Anyway,
just want to elaborate as well. I think if there was more matches, I would like to see um, would be Sting versus the Great Muta, some Road Warrior tag team matches, especially that they had in the early to mid 80s.
I was going to say that Sting Great Muta from Bash at the Beach '89.
Yeah.
That was my favourite match of the night. I thought that was a really good match.
Yeah, they've had some very good matches, and they are two wrestlers that have got great chemistry with each other.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to say
And,
I think that was the best fight of that night, best match and on that pay per view.
I liked the match. I hated the finish.
Yeah, I think, like I said back then, it's a bit different to wrestling now is, especially if you watch AEW, is a lot of high flying. Um, you know, the matches that you watch now are fast paced. Let's put it that way. Whereas back in the olden days, it was more of a slower pace because you didn't have your high flying wrestlers, or you had mainly powerhouses and stuff and submission specialists.
Well, I
But
wouldn't say today is like a high flying pace. High
no,
flying pace is
not for all of
enjoyable.
them. But like I said, if you watch AEW, they've got a lot of high flying wrestlers that would do high flying stuff. You've got WWE have a few. They don't have many, but not many people would always go to the top rope, where you see it all the time now.
Yeah. What I would like to elaborate is AEW is like watching someone taking the speed while you're on an LSD trip while inhaling crack. That's like watching AEW these days because it's just everyone's like fucking Roadrunner at the minute.
Yeah, they just all run around and off top ropes.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for the big high spots and things like that, but if you're doing them all the time, you're diminishing what a high spot is.
And
Not a
it
fucking high
doesn't
spot.
make it as special when it happens.
Yeah.
Shall we get
Anyway,
into Raw then?
yeah, we're fucking going off again. As much as people won't like us here and us just rambling on, we are agreeing to stick to a schedule here, so we're trying to stick to the schedule. Anyway, so moving on to Raw. So debut episode of
Yep.
Raw, 11th of January 1993. So a very cold day in New York at the Manhattan Center. Now I tried to have a look how like the capacity for the Manhattan Center is and how many tickets were sold. I couldn't find anything about it, about how many
Mm.
tickets was distributed. I could only find the Nielsen rating, but from what I gathered, the Manhattan holds anywhere between like 1,500 to like 2,000 people.
I was going
I
to say,
might
when
be,
you look at it, there's not that many people there.
oh no,
Obviously, it's a small arena, so
yeah, it's a very very small arena. All I can say is if anybody that attended Raw in the early 90s at the Manhattan Center, please get in touch. Let us know. What was the capacity of the room? How many people were there? Just so then we get more a clear view on actually how many people attended. But from what I know,
You know what we need to do, don't you?
what's that?
Obviously, because if someone gets in, great. But is the Manhattan sentence still there?
I don't know. That's actually a very good point.
Actually, it must be there because Raw did a 1,000th episode there, didn't they, or something? Or 25
Yeah,
years or something. They went back to the Manhattan Center.
yeah. I might have to have a look if the Manhattan Center is still there.
And that's
I hope
what I wasn't meant to say. Do you know what we should do? That's what I was meant to say. What I just said
oh,
about it's still there anyway.
yeah, if it's still there,
But
then obviously we can find out how many people it held or holds. Um, if it doesn't specify, then I'm sure quick email. Maybe I might get the answer that I'm looking for. But anyway, going off speculation from what I have sort of seen online, I'm going to say roughly 1,500 to 2,000 people.
mhm.
I could be right. I could be, but again, hey.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, Manhattan Center, New York. We've got Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, and Rob Bartlett on commentary. We've got Howard Finkel doing ring announcing, and we have Sean Mooney for the backstage segments. Now, this debut episode of Raw done a 2.5 Nielsen rating, which is not bad. I think Raw nowadays does what? 1?
I don't know. I haven't had a look, to be fair. But obviously, for when I watched it, obviously, you've obviously gone through everybody. I had that. But um, for that rating, anyway, for this episode of Raw, I would say that's very good because I didn't think too much to Raw, really. Like this
Really?
episode, anyway. I mean, my notes basically says it opens on on the night sky of New York City.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, a lot of people like to do that. And then basically straight into Sean Mooney is outside the Manhattan Center where Raw is taking place. Bobby Heenan tries to get in. Shaw tells him he's not. He's been replaced by Rob Bartlett, but he still tries to get in as Raw goes to its opening credits for the first time.
I actually liked the opening segment and the segments throughout the episode of Raw.
Oh, the segments, as in like some of the things that took place outside with Sean Mooney and Bobby the Brain Heenan, they were fine. I mean, like I said, it does say in my thoughts at the end of my notes. But yeah, I liked those bits. Um, but yeah, the wrestling, I think, obviously, as a premiere show, and I know it's 93, but you probably, if they would have done the second week, the first week, in my eyes, I think the second week was better. Like I
Yeah.
said, they continued stories, they made stories, and all that going into the Royal Rumble. But yeah, what I can't change the past. But yeah, I like the opening segment with Sean Mooney and Bobby the Brain, and then like I said, it goes to its opening credits.
Yeah, I just had a look. So Raw and SmackDown currently for 2024 is roughly around about a 1.4, 1.5 rating. I
So
think that's for the last maybe week, 2 weeks. AEW currently is at 0.3, but we won't get into that. So again, that's not bad in today's modern
no,
days. With there's a lot more things. We have streaming, so not everyone's attention is always on wrestling. It's on binge watching their favorite fucking show, whatever that may be.
or movies.
Yeah, or movies. Or, whereas in '93, to be fair, even when I was growing up, there wasn't a fucking great deal on TV. I think the highlight of my week was probably watching Power Rangers.
The good old Power Rangers.
Yeah, that and the Batman animated series. That as well. That was the shit. Anyway,
When I just while you're on that Batman animated series for DC, Marvels was the X-Men that
yep.
followed, and Power Rangers. Yeah, all great cartoons, TV programs. But anyway, back to wrestling.
Yeah, back to wrestling. We could always do one day. something on those if people are really interested in it. But yeah, so yeah, 2.5 for 1993.
Very
Not
good.
bad. But we're very good, especially when you look at today's fucking climate in wrestling. So as you mentioned, yes, we're open to a outside segment. I was going to say backstage segment then. Outside segment with Sean Mooney and Bobby the Brain Heenan trying to get into the Manhattan Center. And then obviously we move to the opening credits of Raw. And we get our first match of the show.
Before we go there, obviously, I think something like, being outside the Manhattan Center, I get it. Bobby the Brain Heenan's been replaced and all that kind of thing. But I actually like that it's outside because you don't get it very often nowadays. You wouldn't get it nowadays, would you? Let's be honest.
No.
But I think it
It,
was nice that you actually saw outside the Manhattan Center, not just, on with a cardboard, cut out that they stood in front of to do a promo.
no, it is very nice to see an outside segment. And obviously you see it for this episode and you see it for next week's episode as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right. WWE and WCW did it quite a lot in the mid 90s. And then after a while, you've seen less and less of it, especially with WWE. Only if it was like a pay per view or a special episode of Raw that they would show the quick outside of the arena that they're in, saying how many people were turned up. But yeah, you don't really see it nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think it would be nice to see more outside shots. The only problem I think with that is especially now with WWE going to larger venues than what they used to,
Mhm.
with the smaller sports arenas, and they're now in pretty much stadiums. That's what they're mainly into. Is you've got a lot more people outside.
Yeah, I think that's why they're not doing it. As they got to the Attitude Era, where if you were watching WWE or WCW, later ECW, although they went everywhere. I think it was just a case that the more people were there was like, how would they be able to do the segments outside? And the answer is they wouldn't, because
Yeah, or
fans are
even
like, fans will try and get into the picture, and
or even trying to keep fans back. We've seen in some of the hardcore matches, especially
yeah,
when they go outside, how many fans are outside
oh
still.
yeah, that's true. But going back to what you said about we get to the first match, I did write Vince Macho Man and Rob Bartlett go through the matches for tonight from ringside because they're the
Hmm.
three commentators. And obviously, our first match is Koko Beware versus Yokozuna.
Yes, Coco Beware, one part of High Energy,
Yes.
wearing his best looking attire for tonight. What it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a bag of refreshers, especially the squashies, the cherry and apple ones. You ever seen a bag of those?
Yes.
Yep, fucking exact same colour, exact same. I was looking at that and going, I've seen that colour before. And then it popped in my head. He's a bag of refreshers. And you know what? Squashies, it actually makes sense, especially what happens to him in this fucking first match, because it's very, very one sided. He fucking gets squashed. Let's put it that way.
Let's put it this way: he probably gets two moves on this match. In this match, that is it.
You know what? I must have missed those two moves because as I
They
was
weren't very
watching the
effective.
match,
They weren't very effective.
well, yeah, otherwise I would have fucking wrote them down. But I was watching the match and
Literally, my notes for this week were what happened in the matches. Obviously, going forward, we said we were going to change it, but for this is the match. They tied up twice, and Yoko pushes Coco to the ground. Coco tries a running shoulder tackle but fails. Coco hits two drop kicks before running at Yoko, who picks him up and drops him on the ropes. Yoko does a leg drop, picks him up and chucks him into the corner, hits a running splash, knocks Coco to the ground, bonsai drop, 1, 2, 3, match is over.
yeah, I've
That was
seen
it.
at the beginning of the match, obviously, Coco Beware trying to run at Yokozuna, which is a big mistake because fucking that's 505 pounds of just pure fucking.
Yeah, after he tries the two shoulder tackles running off the ropes, he hits two drop kicks which actually land which he does hit Yokozuna. Doesn't knock him down or anything. Just knocks him onto the ropes, which obviously leads to the next part before Yokozuna does 2 more moves and wins. But yeah, the match was, well, I don't even know how long the match was.
Well, I've got it here. I did have it here. Oh, no, I have got it here. So the match went on for 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
That must have included the entrances then.
Well, of course, that's going to include the entrance.
No,
But yeah,
I mean, obviously, like sometimes because of the entrance, the match looks longer. But if you just look at it literally as the match, the bell rings, yeah, it's about 2 minutes something. It must be because, like I said, that it literally is. Like I said, it's a squash match because obviously they're promoting Yokozuna, obviously. But yeah, I didn't like the match. Well, the match did what they were aiming to do, and that was to big up Yokozuna.
well, yeah, Yokozuna at that point is still undefeated. I think Yokozuna made his debut probably late 92, early 93, I would imagine. But yeah, he's still undefeated up until that point, which is quite an impressive feat because you don't really see that much in modern wrestling. You'll see someone undefeated for a brief amount of time, but eventually they end up getting defeated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see. Well, I wouldn't say really nice to see the match because the match was pretty much one-sided and it was Coco Beware being thrown to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to see, obviously, Yokozuna still being undefeated to that point and still undefeated moving forward until WrestleMania 9, which we will hopefully get to at some point. But yeah, it was a very one-sided match. The only thing that sort of grabbed my attention was just the commentary team throughout the match, especially Rob Bartlett. They say, Yoko should be wearing a bra. That made me laugh. It did get
I did hear
laughing.
that.
Yeah. While we're on it, what do you think about Rob Bartlett as a commentator? I know he's a radio host, so obviously he has to be very quick and very witty. But what do you think of his interviewing?
We'll save that to my thoughts. There is a bit in there.
Well, I can't really say interviewing. It's more play
For
by play.
Rob Bartlett, anyway.
Yeah, it's more
I
play
mean,
by play interviewing.
I mean, Vince McMahon does a good job and tries to be like the nice person when Rob says horrible things, and Macho Man just goes off on his own, I think.
I think Macho
But,
Man's just there because he has to be there, not that he
yeah.
wants to be there.
Well, no, he wanted to wrestle, but Vince didn't want him to wrestle, basically. So he did what, while he was under contract, he did what he did. And obviously, I don't mind Macho Man on commentary. I've never not liked Macho Man as a performer. But yeah, obviously, yeah, the match did what it did, and I like the commentary team, most of it. What would you, if you were rating this match, what would you give it?
I would give it a fucking S. It's literally just someone being thrown to Yokozuna to still show that he's undefeated. And Coco Beware by that point in time was not a big player in the WWE compared to what he was in the early 80s.
Yeah, he kind of lost.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the jobber of the WWE point.
Yeah. He was getting on, and the only good thing that came out of him being around in 93 was that he teamed up with Owen Hart. But again, that was very short-lived as well.
Yeah. Well, after that match, we had a promo for the Royal Rumble, which we will be reviewing at some point. And then Bobby the Brain Heenan cuts a promo on the Narcissist, which we all know now is Lex Luger. And basically, this promo was to big up Lex Luger and try to not have as much hype for Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, I've seen the high package for the 1993 Royal Rumble, and then obviously the high package from Heenan, bigging up Lex Luger or the Narcissus. I think they were calling him at the time,
Yep.
and that changed to the Narcissist. But it was okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The promo, I like Bobby the Brain Heenan's promos, although, this was as Vince put it, a pre-recorded message, because obviously when you're watching the show, he's outside. But I think Bobby the Brain Heenan always cut good promos, and I'm guessing, because I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing this is where Mr. Perfect obviously had left the Heenan family.
Yeah, I think it's around that time that he left the Heenan family.
Yeah. So obviously now he's bringing in the new best wrestler, aka Lex Luger, and obviously he's trying to beat his old wrestler, which was obviously Mr. Perfect.
I like Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby the Brain Heenan is a very, very good talker.
Yes.
He could sell fucking shit to an Eskimo. He was that good. He could make you believe in the person that he was representing or the person that he was bringing in, that they were a very, very big deal and that they could beat the top babyface at the time. And even when they did, he always had some retort to why they never won. But yeah, Bobby the Brain Heenan was a very, very good talker. He was great as a manager, great as a play-by-play commentator. Even some of the segments that he was in are just pure comedy gold. You look at, especially in the 80s, when the Heenan family were going up against the British Bulldogs and were scared of Matilda, and then he got dressed in the weasel suit.
Yep.
It was just pure gold. Okay, at the expense of Bobby Brain Heenan, because he probably didn't like being called a weasel, or especially wearing the weasel suit. But to us, the viewer, it's something that stays with you because you remember it all this time later.
Yeah.
So he had pure comedy timing when it was needed. But at the same time, he could be very serious when you look at him managing Andre the Giant in '87 and, trying to dethrone Hulkamania. Again, Heenan made you believe that Andre would beat Hogan.
Oh, it can make you believe anything. How Bobby the Brain Heenan could. I mean, I think some of the people who can cut promos today, like if you go through wrestlers that thingy like Chris Jericho, CM Punk, even back to like The Rock and Stone Cold, they could all cut good promos and they could make you believe. John Cena, another one. But then I reckon the one to start it or to get us to believe in wrestling when they're talking to you from the ring or backstage area, I think it started with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. But at the same time, I can't really agree with that because you had so many good managers back in the day. Again,
Yeah,
Bobby
but
the Brain Heenan
like you
was...
said, managers are managers, aren't they? I was just like, on what I've seen, I mean, I may go back and watch things further back and I might take that statement back. I just think from where I've watched it, and I mean, I watched it when he managed Andre or Mr. Perfect or whoever, and I just think like the promos he cut were sometimes better than the wrestlers.
Okay, I agree with you there, but then you look at the people that he did manage. He managed Rick Rude, he managed Mr. Perfect, he managed Ric Flair, managed Andre. Okay, he was a better talker than King Kong Bundy. King Kong Bundy was a talker. But yeah, there was a mixture of the people that he was paired up with that were good wrestlers and they were good talkers in their own right, to we're just putting you with Heenan to try and get you over a little bit as a dominant heel, which, like I said, they did with.
I think, like, if you look at it like today,
Yeah.
when Roman Reigns was rubbish. Not so much now. He can cut a very good promo, but coming out of the Shield, he never. Well, when he was in the Shield, he didn't speak, and leading up to things like John Cena had to carry him through a promo once on Raw or SmackDown. I can't remember. and they put him with Paul Heyman. Now, again, Paul Heyman is a very good talker and can make you believe what he's saying. And they put him with Roman, obviously in the bloodline, and Roman Reigns was working closely with Paul Heyman because if you look at a Roman Reigns promo now, he can do it because he's worked with someone that is really good at promos. And I think that's maybe why maybe some of the wrestlers were put with Bobby the Brain Heenan, because he could, make you believe what he's saying. And if the wrestlers worked closely with him on their promos, then obviously sometimes it can happen that they become just as good as the manager.
Yeah, like you was just saying about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is a very, very good talker and another good storyteller that could make you believe in the person that he was managing. Again, that's a guy that can sell shit to anybody and they'll buy it in droves. So every now and again, you'll get someone like that who comes along that can, one, tell a good narrative, two, can get the wrestler over, and three, can be someone that you hate, but then at points you can also love as well.
Yeah. I mean, then obviously going on from the promo, obviously the next match was a tag team match, which had the Steiner Brothers versus the Executioners. All I put down was Steiner's completely controlled this match. Both Scott and Rick manhandled the Executioners for 3 minutes. Steiner's hit the Super Steiner drop, or the Steinerizer, whichever one it's called at the time, for the win. And obviously, while this match was going on, they commented that, well, you could see in the crowd that Doink the Clown was there.
Yeah, the next match, obviously, the Steiner Brothers versus the Executioners. Did you hear who the Executioners were?
Dwayne Gill is one of them.
Yes, Dwayne Gill, good old Gilbert himself.
Yeah, I heard that one, and I did hear the other name, but I can't remember at this present time who it was.
The other Executioner is Barry Hardy. No relation to Jeff or Matt Hardy, I'm sure of. I didn't really check on who Barry Hardy was, but as soon as I heard the name Dwayne Gill, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder if that was actually Gilbert. And I checked, and it actually is Gilbert.
Yeah, as soon as I heard Dwayne Gill, I knew it was Gilbert, but obviously in this match he's wearing a mask, so you wouldn't see his face anyway.
It's a very quick match. The Steiners, they take no shit with the people that they're in the ring with. They are not afraid to fight their way in the ring, out the ring, through the arena, through the backstage, to the outside. I'm sure they're not even fucking afraid to fight in a hotel room or fucking restaurant. But yeah, they literally, the Executioners, again, another job at tag team. Again, building up the Steiner brothers as a dominant force in WWF as probably one of the top tag teams, I would say, at that point in time. Would you disagree? They were.
No,
They were a very big deal.
the Stein brothers were very big. Like, literally, I mean, most of the matches on this match, apart from the next one, which we get to in a minute, I think they were all built as squash matches. And I think, obviously, at this point, the Steiner brothers were one of the biggest tag teams probably in the WWE or WWF at the time. And I think, like I said, they, you can tell they're not afraid to fight or wrestle. But like I said, when I saw that who they were fighting, I was like, okay, this is going to be another quick match. But like I said, the Steiner brothers, the way they beat the Executioners again, you would think they could beat anybody. I mean, the Executioners were basically there just to, make the Steiners look good.
Yeah, they were just there to catch lights, and the match time was only 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was
So,
about 3 minutes again.
yeah, it went off. It was a nice back and forth tag between the Steiner brothers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the Executioners got one hit through the match.
Yeah, they got one hit, and obviously, you've seen throughout the match, the Steiners were tagging in, tagging out, fresh man in. But
Yep.
isolated one half of the Executioners. And there were some highlights in the match, especially with
The Steiner. I can't freaking call what it's called.
with the
Finishing move, not the It's the Steiner Iser or the Super Steiner drop. We'll go with that one because it's better.
yeah, you on about the bulldog from the
Where
sister.
Scott lifts them up on his shoulders and Rick comes off the top rope.
Yeah, but that's a devastating move. But you also seen in the match, Scott Steiner just showed you how powerful he is, especially bear hug into an overhead belly to belly and a double underhook fucking choker driver.
Yeah, but although he's very strong, he was very quick back then as well because he was doing leapfrogs in it and even doing stuff like Hurricane Ranas and stuff like that. It's like, you know, anyone who watched Scott Steiner later in his career, go back and watch the earlier matches with the Steiner brothers, or even if he's in a single match on his own when he's younger, some of the moves he pulls off, yeah, they're really, really good. I mean,
He
I'm not a massive Scott Steiner fan or Steiner Brothers fan, but for what they did as a tag team and what they did here in 3 minutes, the match was good for for the time they got. And like I said, they looked very strong that they could beat anybody.
Well, yeah, they could beat anybody, and again, it's a very quick match. But you got to remember, and I'm sure people remember as well, or for the newer listeners or the newer generation that don't know, is at this point in time in '93, Raw was only 45 minutes,
Yep.
which is a fucking godsend compared to how long most wrestling shows are now. So
Mm.
3 minutes seems very short in today's wrestling mindset. Or 3 minutes, they would consider a squash match in 3 minutes or a throwaway match.
Yep.
Uh,
These are what the matches were.
yeah,
Well,
to have 3 minutes back in '93 on a 45-minute show and try and get everything else in is, don't get me wrong, they made the full use of the 3 minutes by showcasing what they can do.
oh
So
yeah,
in
definitely.
you could say, yeah, it's a squash match because they are going up against a jobber tag team, but
Mm.
they have 3 minutes where just a pure wrestling clinic of what they could do in the ring, no matter the size of the opponent. And again, if you go back and look at some of the Steiner matches from WCW or JCP, again, they could work with anybody. And yeah, okay, they were longer matches, but you're still seeing the same sort of mindset and what they did here in 3 minutes in something like a 20-minute match.
Yeah. Well, after that one, we go back outside to a lady, suppose trying to get into the building, saying they're Rob Bartlett's auntie, but it obviously turns out to be Bobby the Brain Heenan dressed up.
Yeah. Again, I like these segments, especially the
Yeah.
interaction between Sean Mooney and obviously Bobby Brain Heenan trying to get his way into Raw. And yeah, it was just funny seeing him dressed up as a little old lady pretending to be, well, I think it was Rob Bartlett's auntie, I think was this
Yeah.
what he was trying to be, yeah. Yeah, it was just brilliant. I preferred the segment that comes up later on. But yeah, it was, again,
It's a
45
little,
minutes.
I think it's just like I said, it's a little funny thing that you're still seeing Sean Mooney, you're still seeing Bobby the Brain Heenan, but he's, at this point, he's doing comedy stuff on this first show because obviously he's trying to get into the arena, but they're saying it's full and he can't go in. So, yeah, it was funny to see him dress up and, do something different than just be himself. Obviously, Sean Mooney finds out who he is, and then um, he still doesn't get him, but
Yeah, still.
um, go on.
I think after that we move on to Razor Ramon. Cut
Yes.
in ring promo against Bret Hart at the upcoming Royal Rumble for the WWF Championship.
Yep.
Again, it was a very nice promo cut by Razor, and Scott Hall was, again, he's a very good talker and tell a very good story. But obviously, they recap him attacking Owen Hart and then making remarks against the Hart family
Yep.
and he's going to do to Brett at the Royal Rumble. Again, nice little promo. Didn't go on too long, just the right amount of time. And again, 45-minute episode, trying to get a lot in there. Not only matches, promo, you've got your comedy bits again with Heenan and Mooney. And
I mean, that going back to the interview with Razor Ramon for a minute, like I also have the thing about attacking Owen Hart and what he says about the Hart family and what he's going to do to Brett at the Royal Rumble. But I also have that like a line that he says where he says he's caught up to Bret Hart in 8 months for what Brett's for it to take Brett 8 years to get to the top. And in 8 months of him being in WWE, he's going for the WWE Championship. And I thought, like, they're making Razor look very strong for this match.
yeah, I think even at that point in time, Scott Hall hadn't lost a great ton of matches. I think he had more wins than he did losses at that point in time. But you look at someone like Scott Hall, I think Scott Hall was, 6'5", 6'6", I think. Quite tall.
Yeah, he was quite cool.
But again, with his frame and his build, he can move. He could also do power moves as well. You've seen it with the fall-away slam that he did.
Oh, he did that quite a lot with everybody wherever he wrestled. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's patterned a fall-away slam. Fall-away slam. It was a fall-away slam then. Fall-away slam. But what most people don't realise is that Scott Hall used to do choke slams as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you also had his finisher, which is so iconic, the Razor's Edge, the Crucifix Powerbomb, which we've seen Damian Priest use for a little while, and don't really see him use it anymore. Well, he may break it out now and again.
Yeah, it's like a last sort of like maneuver to try and win the match. If he's tried his finishing move, Damian Priest, that is not Scott Hall.
Oh, you mean the South of Heaven?
That'd be the one.
Yeah, that's actually his fucking finishing move. But yeah, it was a very nice promo, and again, Razor just oozes machismo throughout that promo.
Oh yeah, I like the promo. I think I didn't think Scott Hall or Razor Ramon could cut a very good promo, but listening to this one, you believe that when the Royal Rumble comes, you believe that he enjoyed attacking Owen Hart, and you believe in his the way he's saying it that he's going to enjoy to beat Bret Hart at the Royal Rumble. But yeah, very good promo
for Scott Hall, and it's what really cemented him as a top tier superstar, and really map compared to what he was doing way before, as like the Diamond Stud in WCW, and then I think he was just known as Scott Hall in the AWA.
Yeah,
so it was a perfect gimmick for him, and once he got that gimmick, it
Razor
literally.
Ramon, great character work. Love Razor Ramon.
Yeah, and it boosted his stock in terms of what he was worth.
Yeah.
And the fact that he managed to rip off Scarface and get away with it for so long.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really say rip off. He took inspiration from it. But again, panned out, made him a big superstar. He won championships, not only in WWE, also in WCW as well. Made him one of the most iconic members of a faction.
Yeah.
And because of that, it also, he helped another superstar who was flummoxing around in WCW with Sting, giving him the idea to take aspects from the Crow movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's a very smart man, Scott Hall, very smart man.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next, we had a little promo from Tatanka about when WWE were doing their headlock for hunger.
Oh, fuck, I missed that one.
Literally, he just said he's the native Tatanka, and him and the WWE are going to put a headlock on hunger. That was it.
Oh, Probably why I missed it.
You didn't miss much. But then on to the longest match of the night. Shawn Michaels, Max Moon for the IC title. Now, watching the first 2 episodes of Raw,
Mm.
everything in that Shawn Michaels will do is like it's making, because you don't see Brett on this show. The IC title is the prominent title, like the workhorse title, over the first couple of episodes of of Raw, because obviously Shawn Michaels in this one, Marty Jannetty in the next one, who are fighting each other at the Royal Rumble. But it makes the IC title feel a worthy bout to have
Yeah,
than what they do now, or
yeah.
what they've recently done.
The IC title, especially in the 80s, early to mid 90s, it was the stepping stone, but also the workhorse title in WWE. And a lot of people would say, to hold the Intercontinental Championship is a lot more prestigious than holding the WWF or WWE Championship, because
Mm.
especially the people that's held that bout that have probably never gone on to win the big
When
one.
you look at it, I mean, 2 people straight away that have this bout that went on to win the world title. Well, there's 3 I can think of. Bret the Hitman Hart did it.
Yep,
Shawn Michaels.
yep,
Well, actually, there's more. Triple H.
yep,
Uh, Chris Jericho.
yes,
The Rock. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
yep.
There's just a few. You don't need to name anymore. But yeah, I like, well, I like the Intercontinental Championship. And this match was actually, because it gave it the time, not like they do now for Intercontinental title matches, but this match between Max Moon and Shawn Michaels, I really, really enjoyed it. I actually thought, because obviously we all know who Shawn Michaels is, and Max Moon was Conan, who in WCW dressed up as a superhero. But yeah, literally these 2 went backwards and forwards, like reversals, everything, even some high flying spots as well. Obviously, it goes for about I'm going to say about 8-9 minutes. But literally, between the 2 of them, work really great together. I mean, again, it cuts to Doink in the camera. The camera cuts to Doink in the entranceway, and then obviously Max Moon hits a super kick. No, Shawn Michaels, sorry, hits the super kick, and then does the suplex, but Max Moon kicks out of it, hits a second suplex, and wins the title. Well, keeps the title, so I say, but wins the match. But yeah, this match was the best on the show. Obviously, it was given the time, and obviously, it was building the story of the Rockers splitting up.
Yeah, so the match went on for 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Obviously, like you elaborated, Max Moon was originally Conan.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Well, he
he
became
had,
Conan, didn't he? After this,
well, yeah. I don't think he had any matches of Max Moon. Might have done. I'm not too sure. But then obviously Max Moon gimmick was passed on to someone else. But yeah, it was a very good match. They had 10 minutes and 30 seconds to play with. It was very, I wouldn't say high flyish sort of match.
well, it wasn't very high
It was,
flying, but they
it
did
was,
some.
it was nice. It kept a constant flow going. Max Moon with a nice shot throw to Michaels over the top rope. Followed by Meteora from the apron. The Meteora from the apron was actually quite impressive.
Yep.
You also had Moon with a near fall on Michaels. Sean eventually, gets your hand with a pre-switching music, which would eventually
Yeah.
later on be using and
Well, to be
would
fair, if you look at, we all know what Sweet Your Music is, but literally, the suplex that Shawn Michaels hits for the win is a very, very weak finisher, and everybody does it in like as you move forward through wrestling, that suplex just becomes a normal move. So I think Shawn Michaels had to find a new move, and obviously switching music because he was already doing super kicks just seemed the right one to go with. I mean, it's better than the move that finishes off Max Moon in this.
Yeah, so Shawn Michaels' finisher at this point in time is the teardrop suplex.
He
Obviously,
should split up on the Rockers, haven't they?
so he split from the Rockers. He was using the teardrop suplex as his finish, but even when he was in the Rockers, both him and Matty used to do super kicks, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
they're the rocker dropper as well, which
Yep.
Matty uses. But yeah, it's just that evolution. So it's again, he's portraying a new character. He's trying to find his footing. It's working out, but he just still needs those small details, which is going to take his career on for what, another 20 years, 30 years at that point in time.
Well, he leaves and comes back, but overall, he's had a very successful career. I think this, obviously, as the Intercontinental Champion, obviously, this is just him splitting away from the Rockers, and they're realizing that he's probably the better one of the two in terms of wrestling. And obviously, yeah, in like the next year or two, you start seeing them go for the main title, like DX, and then in a couple more years, DX comes around where he's already a solidified champion. We know who he is. He's the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. But yeah, this is basically him on his solo career after the Rockers.
Yeah, once he starts getting people like Sherry behind him, and then eventually Diesel, and
Mm-hmm.
it's uh, it's only up from there. He's not going to go
Oh
down.
yeah.
Okay, he has his low moments in wrestling, but he's always been an outstanding performer,
Mm-hmm.
and his work only gets better from here. But even still, in this singles match between him and Max Moon, it was for 10 minutes and 30 seconds. It actually went by pretty quick,
Yeah.
but
I
it
think the
came
match,
due to the
like
TV.
because the match was interesting, like it was, like you said, it kept that flow to it. I think if you've got a match that they do something, they stop, and then they do something, and then they stop, type thing. You don't keep that flow, and obviously this match just flowed, and obviously yeah, best of the night, good match. I like Shawn Michaels. Um, I like Max Moon as well, the Conan in WCW. But yeah, I thought it was a very good match.
Well, I think at this point in time, Max Moon was actually betrayed by. I'm just going to find out now who it was, because I'm sure I knew who it was. No, I was just bringing up Conan, but it wasn't Conan. Well, I know Conan was Max Moon originally.
But
Uh,
anyway, the next bit that we got while you're looking at that was we had an advertisement for what was WWF Mania, which came on Saturday mornings.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and then that followed up with the Royal Rumble report with Gene Oakland. Just basically going through, and they used to tell you who was going to be in the match or what matches were coming up. Sorry, but then obviously Shawn Michaels, Mighty Jannetty, Mr. Perfect, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan all cut little promos in the Rumble report. Um, I mean, back in the day, I guess I know why they did this. It was because the internet wasn't around, so you needed to know who was fighting, I suppose, to get you interested. But yeah, there wasn't much really there. Um, Following on from that, we go back outside as Bobby the Brain Heenan is now Rob Bartlett's uncle. And still again, doesn't get in. Sean Mooney knows it's him. But again, another little comedy sketch, which was quite funny. Again, to see Bobby the Brain Heenan dressing up again to basically try and get into Raw.
So I just had a look. So it was Paul Diamond who portrayed Max
Mm-hmm.
Moon at the time. Conan did portray Max Moon in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be more exact. By 92, it was portrayed by someone else. I think it still might have been by. I think might have been Paul Diamond. Do, 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 do. No, I can only find. So I'll have to dig deep into it, but from what I can see, it was Conan in 1990, around about 92. Someone else portraying him. I think it might have been Kato, and then later on Paul Diamond. Yeah, it's not really a character that really gelled with me, really, Max Moon. It's not something I go, oh yeah, fuck me, it's Max Moon. I got to watch Max Moon matches. Don't get me wrong, the attire that he wore, especially when Conan was portraying him and he came out and he had the fireworks in his wrists and he used to shoot them off, that was quite impressive. But in terms of the overall gimmick, fuck no. Not my cup of tea.
So, what was your thought on the backstage segment?
You mean the outside segment, not the backstage segment, outside
That's the
segment?
one. With Bobby the Brain Heenan trying to be Rob Bartlett's uncle this time.
Yeah, I think he was Uncle Morty.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Uncle Morty. Yeah, out of all three, this is probably the best one because he nearly gets in until obviously has an issue with his beard, and then Mooney pulls his beard down and he goes, "Oh, it's Bobby the Brain Heenan."
Yep.
As someone watching it, you know that is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Even in the second segment when he's dressed up as a woman, you know. But obviously they're playing it, well, trying to play it straight that he is literally falling Mooney.
Yeah.
That someone completely different. But yeah, out of all three, this is probably the best segment that I like.
Yeah, it probably was the best one out of the ones we've seen so far. Then we go back. Then obviously it's the last match now, which is obviously Damien Demento versus The Undertaker. Again, another quick match, very quick match between these two. Damien Demento and The Undertaker went back and forth, and he got more hits than what Coco got, or the Executioners. But then The Undertaker went on to hits like moves like the Old School and the Tombstone. Obviously, Undertaker wins with the Tombstone. But again, it's another. I mean, I don't know who Damien Demento is. I do know who he is. I've seen him in obviously on this, and there was other like little appearances he made. But to me, this was just building up the Undertaker more. But again, it wasn't a bad match for what it was and the time they got. But yeah, I think again, if you go back and watch it today, you know who's going to win the matches because like everybody knows who the Undertaker is. But if you turn around and said who's Damien Demento, only diehard wrestling fans would know who he is.
Well, Damien Demento was portrayed by Phil Theus. I'm just trying to have a look at other gimmicks that he would have been. So he's made his debut in 1987 under the ring name John Reinhardt. He soon renamed himself to Mondo Clean. And then obviously by 92, 93, he debuted as Damien Demento. Again, it was, how can I put it? It's an interesting look. Like it sticks with you.
Oh yeah, once you've seen it, you don't forget it.
Yeah, you won't forget it. But yeah, this match, it only went on for like 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, again, Demento again gets in some couple of cheap shots, takes control. but then eventually Taker hits old school. Well, it would be new school at that point in time. It wouldn't be old school just yet.
I don't think it's called old school. I think it was just called walk the ropes.
Yeah, he's just walking the ropes. The one thing that made me laugh is when Taker hits old school,
Mm.
fucking Damien doesn't sell it.
No, he doesn't.
He literally no sells it and gets straight back onto his feet. But then
But
obviously,
then the Undertaker hits a tombstone.
yeah, unless they were trying to portray Damien as some sort of
Stronger character than he was.
like a demented, can't feel no pain.
Yeah.
But again, without context, and I'm just watching it, I'm thinking, fucking, he didn't sell that fucking move. Whereas most people who take old school sell the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, like I said, Damien gets hit with the old school or walk the rope, gets straight back onto his feet, goes back on the offensive against Taker. And then there's another botch in the match as well. Well, I can't really say the first one was a botch, he just didn't sell it. But there was a botch after that, which is the flying clothesline by Taker.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I know what you're on about.
Yeah, so I think, so Damien whips Taker into the ropes. Taker ducks, bounces back off the rope, comes back with the flying clothesline. And as he hits the flying clothesline, instead of falling back with Taker,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of prone, but then like awkwardly lands.
Yeah.
It just it was no fault of Taker. Taker hit the flying clothesline very nicely.
I
It was
mean,
just
like I said, I think it was, Damien Demento that didn't sell it. I mean, yeah. I think, like you said, it's a quick match that Undertaker, well, they're both trying to thingy, but like I said, he didn't sell old school. He messed up with the flying clothesline. Thank God he didn't mess up with the tombstone.
yeah. Okay. Well, how could you really mess that up? If you did, you'd probably end up being paralysed. But yeah. So
Yeah.
after the flying clothesline, Taker hits Tombstone for the 1, 2, 3, and like I said, match in 2 minutes 26 seconds.
I mean, like I said, for the 2 minutes, 26 seconds, it flowed. It didn't stop.
No, it didn't stop. But when you seen the way he took old school and didn't really sell it, and then obviously the issue with the flying clothesline.
But I think, like you said back then, what's now known as old school, I think it was probably just another move. I mean, it was a very nice move that Undertaker shows you. He can walk the ropes and jump off and hit them on the arm or the shoulder part. But I think back then, because nobody on the commentary related to it as old school.
No, well,
So
that point,
maybe I think, and for the time they had left, he probably couldn't have sold it didn't have time to sell it. It was like, we're going to hit this move, but you need to get straight back up because, Undertaker's going to do a flying clothesline, which, like I said, did botch, and then obviously hits the tombstone.
well, if you listen to the commentary throughout most of the night, anytime there's a big move, all you would get from Vince McMahon is what a maneuver.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't like Jim Ross or Tony Schiavone could do, but
It was no Jim Ross, it was no Tony Schiavone, it was fucking not even any Mike Tenay. It was just literally what a maneuver.
yeah,
Again, I think with the Steiners and the especially Scotty hitting the belly to belly into from air hug into an overhead belly to belly. Again, what a maneuver. Taker
yeah,
with walking the rope, doing the old school, what a maneuver. I
yeah,
think the time we got anything good was the Shawn Michaels match when he hits the super kick, but they don't
yeah.
call it kick. I think they call it a Savate kick.
Yeah, I think that one had a name. Everything else was just, like I said, what a maneuver. And then pretty much the last thing indoors that happens on the night was there was a quick interview with Doink the Clown, who says he would make Crush cry. But then obviously Crush comes out and he squirts. Which Crush comes out. He does. His promo is not very good. Crush's, that is. And then obviously Doink squirts him with a water pistol, and Crush chases Doink.
See, I like Doink. Well, I like Matt Bourne, who portrays Doink at this
I
point
don't
in
know.
time.
Yeah, I like Doink, and I think Doink's fine. It was Crush's promo that I didn't think was very good.
If you could imagine Doink being more like Bray Wyatt, especially when he was and in '93, I think it would have had a lot more staying power than what it did.
Mm.
Because sort of there, you could see that, Matt Bourne would flick between nice and nasty. He brought that to the table with the character. He could always switch between the two. He could be playful 1 minute, but then the next minute,
Could be very the horrible
yeah,
clown.
yeah, horrible clown. He could really, really hurt you. I know
Mm.
WWE or WWF at that point in time were more family friendly, so they couldn't really probably go as far as they have done with like the Fiend or even people like
If
Mankind.
there was something like, I was going to say, if it was a bit later on in the Attitude Era, which I don't think a clown would have like fitted in, but if they did, he could have been a bit more of the horrible clown because, like I said, it's family friendly. There's a lot of children there, so he could only be, you know, a bit of a naughty clown, not a horrible clown.
Yeah, I think if you look at, especially when Matt Bourne leaves and ends up in ECW and becomes born again, and he would have half the Doink face paint on and wear the leotard, and you
Mm.
watch matches there, very psychological matches that he would have,
Yeah,
and the stuff he would do in ECW was very psychological as well. But again, you think this is a precursor to people like, for example, Mankind and the Fiend.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
This is what basically opened the door to those kind of characters.
yeah, it's the prototype to what we would later see.
What would later come down the line, but we wouldn't. Instead of it, a clown would have Mankind, who was deranged, to the Fiend, who's got like the Jekyll and Hyde kind of character.
Yeah, but again, it's the same principle for Doink because it's, even though he's a clown, again, it comes back to he could be nice when he wants to be nice, but then again, as we talked about, he could be very,
No,
very
yeah,
evil.
he's still a Jekyll and Hyde, but as a clown character in the wrestling business,
Yeah,
technically.
I know what people say. Oh, well, it's a fucking clown. Makes no sense. It was it was the right gimmick at the wrong time.
Yeah, and if a different time, it would have worked a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Um,
One thing I didn't like was fucking Crush in this promo.
and that makes two of us then.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Everything was fucking bra this, bra that.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. But the less said about Crush, the better.
You know what? I actually probably prefer Crush when he was a fucking heel. When,
Did
especially like
he? Did he
or
join the Disciples of Apocalypse or whatever they were called? The Harris brothers that drove the motorbikes and stuff. Did he
yeah.
join one of them? A skull or something?
Um. Right. So he debuted as Crush, fan favorite. Well, face. Eventually turned heel in 94, 95 because he joined up with. I'm sure he was part of the $1 Million Man's corporation.
Yeah, I don't know. I know who Crush is, and I know things he's done, but I didn't know if he joined them.
And then he would eventually join the Nation of Domination. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. He didn't fit in.
And then he would get kicked out of that and then obviously form the DOA.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, so
But I preferred him.
As Crush, I don't like Crush, but as other characters, he's all right.
I think in WCW when he was especially just himself, Brian Adams.
Oh, he was a lot better then.
Yeah, especially like part of the NWO and then later on Chronic.
Yeah.
Chronic was a very good tag team. I actually quite like Chronic. I thought they were actually pretty cool. But even before he was the fan favourite Crush, he was also Crush in Demolition.
Yes, he was. I remember that as well.
Yes, because he was helping out because I think Axe at the time was, I'm sure, dealing with some injuries.
So they brought in someone that could just fill his place, basically, for the time being.
Yeah, it was around about 1990.
Mm.
Bill Eadie at that point in time was dealing with some issues, so they brought him in as a third member, so they would have three-way tag matches, or if they did have a tag match, you'd always see like Smash and Crush. Time.
But moving on from that promo, we had the last bit of the show, which was that I do believe they're up on the roof at this point, and Bobby the Brain Heenan is still trying to get in, and Sean Mooney says he can go in to the building, but by this time Raw had already finished.
Yeah, so we get the last segment, obviously. Eventually Heenan does get in, but like you just said, Mooney tells him that Raw's over now. It was fun to see because, like you said, throughout the entire 45-minute episode, you were trying to see, Bobby the Brain Heenan trying to get his way in there.
Yeah.
And eventually when he did get in there, it was already too late, which, again, just made it just that little bit more funny.
Yeah. And it's like I said, when he finally gets in, he's going to get there and there's nobody there because it's finished. Which, I thought the way the show ended was fine. Like, we've seen Bobby the Brain Heenan 3 times try and get into the building. And on the 4th attempt, he finally gets in, like I said, to Raw being finished. So, but yeah, I think, I don't really like Bobby the Brain Heenan being a goofy kind of comedic character, really, but this did work for Raw, and for the time that it was, anyway. But my thought, go on.
Bobby the Brain Heenan does have some, like I said, he does have some comedic time, and it might not look like that he's probably liking doing these sort of skits. But you look at the stuff he'd done in WCW when he was part of the commentating team, especially for Halloween Havoc, and he wears the mask and he says "boo," and I think it's Tony Schiavone. I think pulls the mask face.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He's funny in what he can play the funny character. I just think, obviously, at this point there was only obviously they were pushing Rob Bartlett to be the third man on the commentary team. So obviously Brain didn't have a spot, but I actually like it when Bobby the Brain, especially in WCW, when he's on the early WCW, when he's on the commentating desk, I do like you said, he's always trying to, if you're got the good guy in the ring, he's always backing the heel. Unless it's Hulk Hogan, like Hulk Hogan when the NWO, he's actually backing the good guys. So I like Bobby the Brain Heenan. And like I said, I like these. They were funny, when he was trying to get in all show. But my thoughts on it, I've just put something like what I've put. There's not a lot. Not many matches. Plus, they were very quick. Only decent match was the IC title match. Razor Ramon cuts a good promo. Vince and Macho Man good on commentary. I'm not a massive fan of Rob Bartlett, and obviously Bobby the Brain was funny watching try and get in.
Yeah, well, it was fun to see, and obviously, as you just mentioned about Rob Bartlett trying to replace Heenan.
Mm.
I'm sure at this point in time, Heenan was already 1 foot out the company anyway. I think he was on his way to WCW around this sort of time.
Well, he only went there when WCW actually had Nitro, because I don't know if he's on the first show in the mall, but he definitely, again, I think this is where Vince is trying to get rid of the old people. So, like, if you can get rid of Bobby the Brain Heenan and it's got him, Macho Man, and Rob Bartlett, he probably would have preferred that. But yeah, like I said, overall for Raw, I mean, if you want to watch it, it's not the best watch in the world, but it does what it needs to do. It lets you know it's a wrestling show, and obviously you can tell from '93 they like their storytelling. Well, Vince likes his storytelling because a lot of things that happen on this one, like with your promos and interviews and all that, it's all story told instead of fight here, like they were doing more recently, but before Vince left. But yeah, I think overall it's nice to go back and watch these old ones.
45 minutes of wrestling is very refreshing compared to, like we said at the beginning, the
Yeah.
2-3 hours that we get now. And it's amazing what they do with the time that they had back then to try and fit in 4 matches, hype packages, interviews, multiple outside compared to you watch Raw now. As time went on, Raw became more of a, well, I wouldn't just say Raw, but wrestling in general became more of a story narrative driven program than focusing on wrestling.
Well, I
Obviously,
think Ted Turner. Well, when Ted brought WCW and
yeah,
put it on TV, he rang Vince McMahon to say he was in the wrestling business, and Vince was like, "That's nice," but Vince has always said, and I
I'm
don't think it's
sports
true, but he's
entertainer.
more storytelling, like TV episodes instead of a wrestling show. He's an
Yeah,
entertainment show,
yeah.
not a wrestling show.
You are right with the telephone call where he said he's in the wrestling business, and Vince replied, "Well, that's good, but I'm in the sports entertainment business."
Mm.
Because
So
Vince,
Vince, I don't think Vince, although it was wrestling, I don't think Vince ever wanted it to be a wrestling show. He wanted it. He wanted the wrestling on the show, but wanted it to be an entertainment show, because if you turn around, I suppose, and say, "Do you want to watch entertainment or wrestling?" A lot of people, unless you're a wrestling fan, are going to pick an entertainment show. So I think that's why all the storytelling, the interviews, the backstage promos that WWE have done over the time is to, so that you break away from the wrestling for a bit and you watch a story develop over the weeks leading up to a pay-per-view. Whereas, like you said, in AEW, there are stories, but all the stories are being told in the ring. There's not many like backstage promos and stuff.
well, yeah. Going back to Vince McMahon, he doesn't like the term wrestler. He prefers the term superstar because that's something that he coined. Even though the word superstar's been around for fucking years before even McMahon started using it, but he liked to coin the term superstar more than wrestler because it set himself apart. He was sports entertainment, everyone else was just wrestling. Again, sets him
Mm.
apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can sort of see the direction obviously the WWE was going, especially when Vince took over. That it became more of a story narrative driven programming, even in
Mm.
'93. But again, we've still got some good wrestling matches as well.
Yeah. And I think that wraps up our first episode of Raw.
Yeah, I think it does. I think for the first episode, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked going back. I like seeing the characters that you may have forgotten, like Max Moon, Damien Demento, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was nice to watch it. And like you said, 45 minutes, which we've, I think, doubled. Yeah, I think it was nice to go back and watch it. The wrestling was quick. The IC title match, like I said, was really good. Razor Ramon was good. So yeah, I liked it. And I mean, yeah, it was good. That's how often we'll finish with that.
Yeah, I was just thinking you lost for words there, or your brain's just stuck on it was
No,
good.
I was going to say something, but then it kind of like just, what I just said, it then kind of thinking, so no, it was a good show.
It was a good show. Yeah, I admit it was a very good show. I enjoyed it compared to what we have now. Don't get me wrong, Raw and SmackDown can be a very good show sometimes, but then there's been periods of times in the past it's been a very, very, low end sort of slump to try and get through.
I think now that Paul Levesque Triple H has taken over, I think Raw and SmackDown will be better.
Well, we've
Yeah.
already seen it's improving and it's getting more eyes on the product and
The
what
ratings have gone up in their TV show,
they're.
so they're going the right way.
Yeah, it's definitely working out for them. So, if you had to give the debut episode of Raw a grade, what would it be?
Agreed. C minus.
I would probably agree with you. I'd probably either go C minus or B minus. There was what one match I would probably take out of this, and that would probably be the Yokozuna and Koko Beware. If I had to choose between Taker and Yoko, I'd probably leave the Taker match in, get rid of the Yoko and Koko Beware match. But
Yeah, I
again,
mean, I'd give it a
not,
C
not,
minus because of what we've said in this show. But like I said, if you took out that IC title match and you took out Razor Ramon and filled it with whatever else they filled it with, it probably wouldn't have got a C minus. It probably could have even been lower. But
well, that is your thoughts, and that is my thoughts. I'm sure other people have their thoughts on it as well. Some people might have liked it, some people might have hated it. But yeah, if they would have took out the Koko Beware match, probably put something else in there, it might have probably gone up a little bit more because
yeah,
really, if you look at the show in retrospective, 3 of the 4 matches are pretty much squash matches.
yeah. There's only the one. The only match is the IC title. The rest of them are just throwaway, like squash matches, like you said.
And if you took out the Koko Beware one and probably had another competitive match, I still think I would have still been happy with the Steiner brothers squashing the Executioners and obviously Taker squashing Damien Demento. And my grade would have probably gone up a little bit more from that. But yeah, I think C minus, possibly B minus, just for the Bobby the Brain Heenan sketches. Sort of
Oh
make
yeah,
it.
they were good, but can't just base it on that, can you?
No, you can't just base it on that. But yeah, that's our review on the first episode of Raw. So if you haven't seen it for a long time or you've never watched it, I'd say go back and watch it. You might enjoy it. It's a little bit dated. There are some references in there, especially the Mike Tyson references or reference during the show.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch the Mike Tyson reference in the show?
I did.
Yeah. Just think by '98 he was kissing his ass and throwing millions of dollars at him just to come make an appearance.
Yeah.
Mike throwing shade at him because he's currently locked up at the minute. But it's a sign of the times. That's all I can say. So yeah, I think we're done. We're done. We good?
Yep, we're done.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. Again, you can find all our episodes on Spotify and on YouTube as well under 3 Count Wrestling Podcast. I would say the email address, but fuck, I can't remember it, and I'm sure it's on the last episode.
It
I
is.
don't know. Hold on, I'll bring it up. I'll get it up. Should really have this tattooed on me.
You do know you could have just brought it up in the next episode.
Yeah, but I'll bring it up now. I might as well bring it up every time, and then it gets drilled into people's head then, doesn't it, really?
Wow. I said they've listened this long.
Well, hopefully they have. But anyway, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on at podcast 3Count Wrestling at gmail.com. So that's podcast 3Count Wrestling at gmail.com. For any questions, any queries, you just want to say some random stuff to us, or you just want to say hi, or complain how shit our show is, I'm happy either one. So yeah, so until then, hear my music, we're going to go, and we'll speak to you later.
See you later.
See you later.